If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, comment, and subscribe to my YouTube channel, as well as follow me and subscribe to me on all my other social media platforms. What's up, Thrashers, and welcome back once again to the Thrash Maniac 99 YouTube channel, and I am here with yet another album review for you guys. Yesterday I talked about the new Obituary album. That was fantastic. And we're going to be talking about another album that came out on the 13th of January that I was curious about checking out, my first time actually listening to a full album from this band, but I am talking about the latest effort from German funeral doom / death doom act Ahab with the Choral Tombs. So, obviously, Ahab is a band that I have heard about in the past several years, because, you know, whenever it comes down to funeral doom, they are typically a band that gets recognized as one of the best in the subgenre. Granted, I'm not the biggest fan of funeral doom, mostly because sometimes it can get a bit boring, especially when you just have a lot of drawn-out sections with either no atmosphere or nothing going on at all. But, from what I've heard about Ahab, they are a band that does funeral doom right. And also what I think separates Ahab is their more conceptual albums based on nautical literature. You know, after all, albums like Call of the Wretched Sea, all about Moby Dick, The Boats of the Glen Carrig, a whole story about the, I cannot speak, the novel of the same name. And funny enough, Boats of the Glen Carrig was the last album that Ahab released until now, so it's been 8 years since the last Ahab album, and here we are with the Choral Tombs. This time around, it's a concept album based on the Jules Verne book, 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, so lots of, like, squids and all this kind of stuff, the imagery about the sea and everything. Basically, that's kind of Ahab's wheelhouse. Now, this album is over 66 minutes long, so it's a long album, but what I will say, this album did not feel like it went by an hour. It felt kind of fast, despite it being a funeral doom band. You wouldn't think that a funeral doom album could sound like it goes by in half the time. But it did. It kind of flew by for me. But definitely want to talk about it. So starting off with Professor Aronnax, I believe that's how you say it. Professor Aronnax Descend into the Vast Oceans. Starting off with a blast beat and like a big like death metal section, which for funeral doom, you don't really hear that really at all. But you start the song and the album out with a big blast and a big fucking scream and guttural growls. It's like, man, this band's really taking a risk at trying different things. But after a while of the chaos, it does calm down and soothe out, which is kind of a formula with this album. It's like it starts off with a little bit more of like epic, atmospheric, heavy build-up, or just evil, disgusting moments, and then it calms down and soothes out with some really relaxing melodies. And also the vocals on the album as a whole, you know, from the frontman Daniel Drost, I think. He's not only a great guttural vocalist, but his clean vocals on this whole album definitely are like relaxing to listen to. And it showcases very strongly on pretty much the whole album. But yeah, in the opening track, like I said, blast beat, big moment to start, and then it calms down, and then it gets into like the big, slow funeral doom sections. Colossus of the Liquid Graves, however, the shortest song of the album at 6.5 minutes, is almost straight up death doom. Like, it's not really funeral doom, at least to my ears. Like, it's not as slow as you would expect from funeral doom. This one had more of a straight up death doom feel, kind of like something from like My Dying Bride, or even like a slower Hooded Menace song. It kind of had more of that vibe to it, which was a welcomed addition. And then Mobilis in Mobili, I think I got that right, which was about 8.5 minutes. There are moments on this song that I could definitely pinpoint towards someone like a Hooded Menace, a band like Hooded Menace. Like, this song kind of feels like the transition song. Like, the first two tracks, not as slow, perhaps a little more traditional Death Doom. This track kind of starts off in that traditional Death Doom sound, but then it transitions towards the end with the more Funeral Doom parts. And then pretty much throughout the rest of the album, it's 10 plus minute songs, so you're getting that classic Funeral Doom stuff that you become accustomed with Ahab. Like the sea as a desert definitely also kind of brings in some like evil, sinister riffs that come in here that kind of feels like something you would hear from like a very slow incantation song. It has that like cavernous kind of feel to it with the riff that comes in and just feels grimy and disgusting and satanic feeling, even though no satanic activity whatsoever on this album. And then the song A Coral Tomb definitely kind of keeps in that vein. Same with the following track. I'm going to try and say Agri-Somnia, which is the longest track of the album at nearly 12.5 minutes. This song mostly has more of the melodies going on and the more soothing vocals. Like, there's only a few parts on this song that have those heavy Funeral Doom oppressive moments, but most of this track is just atmosphere, soothing melodies, great clean vocals. Can't go wrong. And then the closing track, the Maelstrom, which kind of definitely fits in with the theme of this album. It's almost like we're in the final battle in this story, and if we're gonna go down, we're gonna go down swinging. And this felt kind of more heroic. Like, typically with Funeral Doom, you're expected to hear a lot of like sad, depressive, somber moments, which you do get that on this album, but this track, the Maelstrom, is more like an epic, heroic song. Especially the lead. Like, the lead work on this album, when you do hear solos, they're drawn out and they're meant to provide more feeling and atmosphere to the song. The lead on this track, on the Maelstrom, around the midway portion of the song, brings in this, like, real heroic moment. It's like we've conquered the giant squid in 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, and we just saved the world kind of feeling. So I really like how most of this album deals in that dark, ambient atmosphere, but the Maelstrom provides a more uplifting feel, which was a nice kind of change up in the mood on this album. But I do appreciate this album top to bottom for how desolate it gets, but at the same time how soothing it can be. The production of this album, after all, with Funeral Doom, you're expected to get some like more raw production, but I thought for this kind of a production job for this band, I thought everything was well kiltered. Like, the bass you could hear, the guitars, the drums, the vocals were clear. Sometimes, especially in like the big, heavy moments, sometimes the guttural vocals can be a bit buried. But aside from that minor production complaint, and also, of course, me not being the biggest Funeral Doom fan, those are really the only complaints I have about this album. It's just those two things. But overall, for my first experience checking out Ahab, I was surprised at how quickly this album flew by. Like I said, it's over an hour long, but it didn't feel like it was an hour. Honestly, I was amazed. I'm going to give this a 9 out of 10. I actually might check out their previous works and see what it's all about. I think I might have a new favorite Funeral Doom band. Previously, that was Bell Witch, but I think Ahab is better than Bell Witch. No disrespect to Bell Witch, but after listening to this album, Ahab, you have earned a new fan in me. But anyways, that's just my opinion. What did you guys think of the Coral of Tombs by Ahab? Let me know in the comments section below, or the Coral Tombs, excuse me. But until next time, horns high, See you guys later.